Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to No Filter Gen Z. We are young Americans fighting to defend the truth, and this time we actually have a special guest on the show from New York, and Elijah knows him personally. And I'm just going to read a little bit about you real quick before we get into it. He was voted most conservative in New York and is an active assemblyman who was involved in the Trump campaign and is a leader for the protection of the Second Amendment, local family farms, and the pro-life movement in the 147th district of New York. So welcome to the show, David.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here, guys.
Yeah, we love having guests on the show. It's something that we're excited about, and especially in New York with everything going on, we'd love to get your take on a bunch of things. But I'm going to hand it over to Elijah to kick this episode off and talk to you about some really important issues that are going on today.
Sure. Mhm.
First question I would like to ask is just what is the biggest problem with New York politics? Why is it so hard to, first off, get like bills passed or, get the right thing going on, especially for more conservative or even just center of the road things that people want to see?
Because first off, because New York is not just blue; it's dark blue, and turning into a communist state, and people don't understand that. But it actually is run by communists. When I first started, there was one communist in the assembly out of 150. Now there's about 17 or 18 registered with the Democrat Socialists of America, and they run New York State. Same with the Senate; it's super majority. They don't just have a majority. It's worse than California. They have super majority, which means as a Republican or a conservative, we have no say in anything. We're irrelevant. Like when those legislators left Texas so they couldn't vote.
Yeah.
If we left in New York State, if our assembly or Senate left, it wouldn't mean anything because they would have the quorum and enough people to take the votes by a huge number. So we're irrelevant. We don't even need to be here. They don't let us talk. They don't let us introduce bills. They don't let us put anything on the floor. It's a heavy-fisted, communist-run organization, and they try to prop it up as saying, "Oh, we're for the people," but they could care less about the people. It's all about power in New York State, and it's all about New York City. New York City controls every single aspect of our life in the state.
That's what I was going to bring up too. Is Elijah has told me before he used to live there, and he said that it's not all liberal. It's the big cities that control a lot of it that end up creating the policies for the whole state, even though it's just those big cities. But why do you think that it's gotten like that? Because New York hasn't always been super liberal. It's progressively gotten more and more liberal. So, what do you think has changed the most that's caused all this?
It's because of the immigration policy, the open door policy. They've moved them all to New York State because people have left here up until a couple years ago. New York was the number one out migration state in the entire country, followed by California now. But New York State was averaging for the last 3 to 4 decades 225 to 250,000 people a year. New York State used to
Wow.
have about almost 30 million people way back when, 28 million. Now we're down to about 16. You do the math. I've got all the census numbers about, they say about 2.5 million people a decade. That's 250,000 a year. Every 2 years, the city the size of Buffalo leaves. And that's been going on for over 3 decades. But they've influxed 2 to 3 million illegals. There
Mm.
are some assembly and senate districts in the city where over 40% of the population, the population that they represent, is illegal aliens. They're not citizens. And that's why they've allowed these illegal aliens in New York City. They changed the law. They can vote. Anyone can vote in New York City. You can come into New York City and vote. You can be from anywhere at any time and vote in any election in New York City. And they said, well, we won't be able to do it in the statewide elections. But trust me, in New York City, they're letting everybody vote in the statewide elections too. And that's why we lost the governorship a few years ago. And we have to tighten that up somehow if we're going to win anything in this state. It's gone so far left, especially with Mamdani, but that's another story. But that's where we're at. We don't have a conservative or Republican representation, but like because New York City dominates us population wise,
Yeah.
and with the fake numbers, they're trying to keep the population in New York City, and it's New York City's dying on the vine as fast as we can watch it.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. No, I know that I speak for all of us when I say thank you so much for coming on today. But
Thank you.
we were talking earlier about Mamdani, and I know you had mentioned that's a whole nother topic. But what are just your like first initial thoughts about like how he is leading the mayoral race right now in New York City, and just kind of what your concerns are? Because you already said that there were communist issues that you dealt with, as in your position, but just like for New York City, what are your concerns there if he happens to win? Because it looks like what potentially will happen.
He's gonna win in a landslide. So this isn't going to be close. Look, I was just writing some notes down for my radio show today about this. That a couple points. Number one, illegals vote in New York City, and Mamdani, they're not telling you, but in that vote where he had all those people vote for him, a lot of it was the illegal vote. Okay, these people who don't even speak the language, they're here illegally, they're living off the system, and they're being told to vote. They're given $20 to go vote. That's what they do in New York City. They pay them, and they voted for Mamdani. They talk about his great organization. His great organization was spreading money around and getting these people organized. They were all paid. They weren't volunteers. They were paid to go out and organize for him. And a lot of that money was coming in from George Soros and other communist entities around the world that are trying to infiltrate New York City because they've got a big hold on it. So the other two candidates. I told people when he was running he was going to win because the other two candidates between Cuomo and Adams, they're just so flawed. I mean, how can you put either one of those people up? I mean, Cuomo's got 13, 14 sexual harassment charges against him. I mean, his whole thing, he killed all those people in the nursing homes, which is double the number than what they tell you. And Adams has got so much corruption behind him. The headline yesterday was his chief of staff just got indicted, who was a former state senator, on bribery and corruption charges. It's like, who would you vote for? So of course they're going to some guy who smiles and has got a big toothy smile like our governor, and that's who they vote for. And because they don't have a clue, but that's where they're pushing them because of the New York City being so socialist, communist now. That's where they're going. He's going to win in a landslide. It's not even going to be close. I don't care what they do. Curtis Sliwa has no chance. He's got about 5%. Even if he gets out of the race for Cuomo, like they're trying to say, that's not going to move the needle at all. I mean, the sad part is what happens after he's elected. Then we watch New York State go into a huge spiral because a lot of these, like Goldman Sachs, the big financial firm in the world, in New York City, just moved 5,000 jobs to Dallas, Texas, and their headquarters. They said they're still keeping in New York City, but that's only until Mamdani. If he gets elected, they're gone, and that's what's happening with all these big corporations. They've already got office space in Miami and Dallas. Those are the two places where the New York Stock Exchange literally is going to be. It's going to be the stock exchange, the Miami or Dallas. They're all moving out. If he wins, you're going to watch New York City dry up. It's not even funny. That's why people, even some Democrats, are really worried.
Honestly, you can't even blame the companies for doing that because of the policies that he's talking about bringing. It would destroy their businesses. But David, I want to get your opinion on a clip I'm going to show real quick of Mamdani and what you think about what he says here. So check this out real quick. I'm going to bring up a clip of him talking about private property. So check this out.
My platform is that every single person should have housing. And I think faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that people try and play like gotcha games about these kinds of things. And it's like, look, I care more about whether somebody has a home. My platform.
So the abolition of private property is something that he said could be a solution. David, what are your thoughts on that kind of idea?
He's a Lenin Marxist communist. He doesn't care about you or I or our property or our hard work or our values. He thinks that, and this aren't Americans he's talking about either. These are the people that have come over here illegally and are sitting on the streets because they're here illegally and they don't have a job and they're sucking off New York State's welfare system. And now, we've got to give them a house. What kind of a house is he talking about? He's talking about your house. He's talking about my house. He's talking about taking your private property, which you worked your life for and continue to work for. These people don't work. These people don't have jobs. I've been down in New York City. It's a hole. It's not the New York City we know and used to love 20, 30 years ago. And this guy is a devout communist who wants to take things from you. And what's going to happen is when he starts this, it's going to be a mass exodus. It already is. About right now, it was, like I said, for decades, 250,000 a year. Now we're up to 500,000. Last year, we lost over 500,000. They won't tell you the real numbers. I have the real numbers. Over 500,000 people left this state. What's her name? Hochul came out a few weeks ago in this press conference and said, "Oh, gee, New York, our 20 million people. We've got." What are you talking about, Kathy Hochul? We haven't had 20 million people since before COVID. We're down to about 16 million on a real census. She's trying to keep the numbers inflated in New York City because New York City has control of all the power. And if we get a real census and we don't count the illegals, New York City drops like a rock, and the rest of the state, the redness in the rest of the state takes over the government. And they can't have that. They can't have that. It's a house of cards. It's a huge lie in New York State. Every time Hochul opens her mouth, she's lying. If she tells me the sky is blue, I set everything down and I look up because I would never believe a word she says. She's a consummate liar. I've called her out on my radio show week after week, using her own words, just like you, putting clips of her. And there's nothing good coming out of this. And when he wins, maybe that's what we need. I hate to say it, but maybe he wins, and maybe this is where the state finally wakes up. I don't think so. Democrats never wake up. They always double down.
So since 2020, so many people moving out. We live in Florida, us three, so we know like people have come
God
to
bless you
Florida,
guys.
to Texas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, they're all these people are moving out of the liberal states and moving into the more conservative Republican states. And I just want to ask you, why do you think that the citizens of New York don't wake up and see maybe we're moving because we don't like the policies of our own state, and then they want to stay in that deep blue area and keep voting for the things that they don't even want? So why do you think the cycle keeps going with these people?
Because there aren't any Republicans left in New York. Okay, we've lost what, 12 million over 30 years. It's or more or whatever the number is. Those aren't Democrats. Those are not the only Democrats leaving are the ones that take their pension after they've worked here, and then they take their liberal policies down to Florida.
Yeah.
It's the Republicans moving out. And the number one minority group leaving New York City, I've got the report sitting right in front of me. It's the blacks. The blacks have had enough. The
Wow.
middle class blacks are getting squeezed right out of New York City, and they're the number one out migration group in New York State. And they don't talk about that, do they? But they've had enough. That's why they've been going over to Republican. That's why they've gone to more conservative values, because they've had enough of what's going on in New York City. New York City can't survive without influxing more immigrants and illegals. That's where they're not to keep their numbers up. That's why there's this big push nationally, why they're screaming against all these illegals all over the place, why ICE is getting attacked, because it's their power base. And when Trump comes in and starts cleaning this up and deporting and closes the border, that means congressional seats are going back to Republicans, and this country is turning. And with this, and I did a whole show on that gerrymandering. New York State has gerrymandered for the last 30 years. You can't, the Republican districts, the only reason they're Republican is because you can't go anywhere else with them. The Republicans, they've gerrymandered every blue district they can. So when Hochul talks about, I'm going to fight fire with fire, she's a blithering idiot. We can't change our districts because it's state constitution every 10 years. Unlike Texas, which can do it whenever they want. That's their law. We don't have that. And so every time she opens her mouth on redistricting, she's a blithering, lying idiot.
Elijah, your thoughts?
I could not agree more. I just want to know, is there something us as citizens or something like in general that Americans could do to kind of remedy this situation, or is there steps already being taken?
I think the steps are being taken. Trump's taking them. We're watching history. Folks, we're watching just an enormous history, a shift in the whole dynamic of this country, the social dynamic, where common sense is taken over and the left hates it. Okay, just a year ago, I got in a fight on the floor of the assembly because I said, as a Christian, I said, a man cannot have a baby. And you would have thought I had just blown up the world because they attacked me. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's common sense. A man can't have a baby. And there's never been a man having a baby in the history of the world. But this is what they believe, and they die on this vine. And the time has come to call them out. I don't sugarcoat it, as you can tell. I don't sugarcoat it anymore. I don't care about these people. Okay, they're blithering idiots. They all need some couch time. They don't live in reality. They live in fantasy land. And this is what they've been taught in schools. This is all this DEI woke junk that doesn't have any basis in reality. Okay, this is what it is. You're a man or you're a woman, and a man can have a baby or can't have a baby, and there's no argument. There's no discussion. Okay, I'm not getting in a debate with these people. It's just you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about, so let's not. I'm not going to give you even the satisfaction of having a discussion on something as stupid as that.
It's funny because they say that we've gone so far right and we're fascists and all this, but we've stayed on the same values over and over, and they just keep moving left. So it looks like we're so far because of how left they are now. So we're really just all pretty moderate in our beliefs, but they have gone off the deep end so far that, yeah, even saying that a man and a woman are different is radical now to say. It's crazy.
That's what we have right now, and it's unfortunately in New York State we lead the way. But look what's happening to California. They're now moving out of California. They've had enough. California is a beautiful state. I mean, along the ocean, I've been there. It's breathtaking, and they've turned it into a dump. You can't afford to live there. You can't afford the food. You can't afford the gas. You can't afford anything over there. And the people are they said they've had enough. Well, we've followed this, especially where I am in Western New York. We have been the number one out migration area for 30 years in the country. I mean, we used to have 1 point.
Looks like he got a call, so it's not recording right now.
Getting to a point where the divide in this country is so real and so in your face that blue and red. Do you want lawlessness? Do you want crime? Do you want wokeism? You go to a blue state. Okay, you want welfare? You go to a blue state. 19 states, as you probably know, will pay your bus ticket and give you a voucher to go to New York State for your welfare. They want you out. They'll give you actually a bus ticket, and they say, we can't give you all this thing. You want the Cadillac of welfare? You want about $60,000 a year in benefit? Here you go to New York State. And New York State accepts them readily.
Lydia, your thoughts?
Well, that just makes me so sad. And especially when you talk about California in comparison, I just actually went there for the first time this summer. And there were certain places like San Diego and places like that I did feel safe and I did enjoy. But the minute that we took any detour to LA and the Hollywood area, it seriously was such an eye-opening experience for me. Because living in Florida pretty much my whole life, I've never experienced kind of what the side of that looks like. And we also visited Venice Beach, and that was probably one of the most disgusting places I've ever visited in my life. And so just to kind of see what wokeism and what leftist ideologies do actually do to places. And so just to see your perspective there, just moving forward, what do you think, it will look like for you, being in your position in New York and just how, because you said that honestly, like New York City in particular will probably have to have a wake up call, when Mamdani gets in office. But what do you think moving forward, like once he does in New York City, what do you think, it would look like moving forward for you and starting the change?
Uh, that's a good question. I think first off, I have a bill. It's my bill for a number of years now, which never will see the light of day. There hasn't been a Republican bill, statewide bill, on the floor of the assembly in over 44 years. That's how bad. My job is to go into Albany every year and debate and vote on Democrat bills. My counterparts, they put up their bills, they get them passed, they go to the governor, and they become law or they don't become law. No Republican bill ever goes on the floor. So when Mamdani wins, it's going to affect the whole state. People think it's just New York City, but it's not, because the Senate and the Assembly of New York State are run by communists. And I say that with all sincerity. I work with them. Mamdani was an assemblyman on the floor with me. He was never there. Okay, he was running for the governor. He didn't show up after March 1st. He wasn't in session once. Did you see him get hammered in paper? No, you never heard a thing. But someone else misses 5 or 6 sessions and they get called out, even when they're sick. But that's just, when he gets elected, it's going to affect the whole state, because both the leaders of the Senate Assembly have said that they pledged to him that they're going to help him any way they can, which means they're going to bloat this budget, which is already 34 billion in the hole. We just got that financial report. We're done. We're bankrupt, but they will give him everything he wants. Remember, when Mamdani wins, he will immediately become the front runner for president of the United States, because he'll be the mayor of New York City. He's a communist, and the Democrat Party has no leadership. They have nothing right now. They've gone so far left that the moderate Democrats, even the leftist Democrats, are scrambling, because they don't know where to go, because communism has taken over and they can't fight it. If you're a Democrat and you fight this communist wave, you're done. I tell people, when AOC took over 6.5 years ago, okay, what did she do? Nobody understands this, but she went after all the elected state officials. Her goal was to take over New York State. She has primaried over 40 of her own Democrat assembly and senators, and won, I think, all but about 2. And she put them in with communist socialists. And that's what we have today. People don't understand that. She has ripped New York State apart. It's not Republican Democrat anymore. It's Democrat on Democrat, because they're all scared. All the moderates have been wiped out. They're gone. And the few left, if you look right now, if you Google it, I think there's like 6 primaries where she's taking on 6 more Democrats, primarying them in this Mamdani thing. The communists have been emboldened. The communists are out. They think they can take on everyone, because the far left of the Democrat Party is the ones that vote, as you saw with his victory in the primary. So it's going to affect the whole state, and the mass exodus is going to get worse. There's no money left. The people with money are leaving. It's I don't know. It's a downward spiral, but we'll have to see what happens. But my issue is going to be that I will just be, again, a lot of us are starting to stand up, but it's the lone voice of conservatism that we're going to try and win this state back.
Well, sometimes things have to get worse before they get better, and I'm just an optimist in general, but I want to know your take on, so say he wins the mayoral race, he becomes like the face of New York City, and he actually implements these things that he's talking about. What is like the good that could come out of this, I guess? What is that for you, that as a citizen in New York? Do you think that this could lead to something better? Like for example, I think that this Trump presidency is even better since he lost in 2020. I think that we needed that people to see it get worse so that we could flourish now. And I want to know if you think New York could be somewhat similar and something good coming in the future out of it.
I say this, I've been actually touting this, because we have to win the governor's race in 1.5 years, 2 years. We have to. Okay, it's over. We have to win, because here's the big thing that you saw just now with redistricting, because that's the key to the whole country. Okay, people understand it's not a red or a blue. It's redistricting, which is the census. If in New York, if we can get Elise Stefanik to win the governorship, it's all about winning the governorship. Forget the assembly and senate races. Winning the governorship, then she will control the 2030 census. And by doing that, we can stop, if she wins, we can stop counting the illegals, and New York City dries up. All those inflated districts in New York City. There's 150 assembly people in New York. Out of the 150, there's only 43 Republicans. So people go, wow, that's not a lot. Super minority. Yes. 107 Democrats, but remember, 150, 75 is half. 82, 83 are from New York City. So everything is vetted out of New York City. They have complete control. New York City vets everything. Every bill, you have to go to New York City. And if they don't like it, it doesn't happen. You control the census. You control redistricting, because you can get an accurate census of the real population of New York State, which is about 16 million and dropping. And with that, we'll lose a couple congressional seats, and we'll control the redistricting in the Senate and the Assembly for the entire state. If, and you won't be counting those illegals, if Hochul wins, forget it. Game over. New York State's done. If Mamdani's the mayor and Hochul wins, we lose the redistricting. New York City, they'll inflate those numbers. They'll cheat on them just like they did in 2020. I have all those numbers by about 2 million people to keep the power base in New York City, which will be the communist socialists. The state's done. This deficit will look like a drop in the bucket compared to 2 years from now.
Here's my follow up then. If you have to legally be a citizen to vote and the census should be citizens, is there anything federally that can be done that can come and clean some of that stuff up in New York from the federal government since it's a legal thing?
Well, New York City voted a few years ago to allow illegals to vote. Like I said,
What?
that's yeah, oh yeah, that's why they keep their power in New York City. That's why you can't
That's
win a
insane.
Republican district except in Staten Island, which is the only Republican borough. Every other borough is because, like I said, some of these districts in the census, they have 40 to 45% of their constituency is illegal. They're not citizens, but they vote. In New York City, they made it because there's so many, they allowed them to vote. Yeah, JFK is
Wow.
called the Welfare Hub Airport, and I've been there many times. You get out of JFK, and there are limousines, Ubers now, taxis, all sorts of transportation that take you immediately, no matter who you are, over to the welfare office, which is just less than a mile away. And you sign up for benefits within 24 hours. You have an EBT card, you have cash in your hand, you have vouchers, you have
Wow.
everything you need, you have your health insurance, and that's for anyone in the world. It's called the Welfare Hub Airport of the world, JFK, and that's I've been there. I've seen it many times, and they just people from all over the world get off and they go into New York City, and that's why they drove all these illegals out of Mexico when they were coming up over the border right into New York City, into LA. They've got to keep the numbers up so that they keep their power. It's not
Wow.
about you or me, it's about power. It's about keeping things blue. And they're freaking out because the left has gone so far left now. The communists have taken over the party, and a lot of Democrats, real Democrats, are like, this isn't the party I signed up for.
Mm.
And that's where we have a chance of winning this big.
Wow. Elijah?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think just like any advice you have for conservatives in New York State on what to believe, what to vote on, any like confidence and like, you know, if you do vote, we have a chance, or if we start, rallying together and protesting, or is there anything that we can do as citizens to make this better?
Yeah, citizens have to speak up. Look, gun owners, we've got out of 17 million people right now, 16, 17, there's about 5 million gun owners. If 40% of gun owners had voted in the last 12 years, we could have won every single seat would be Republican.
Wow.
Okay. Every single Senate, Assembly, and governorship would be at 40%. You can't get these gun owners out to vote. Oh, they're not coming for my shotgun. I hear it all the time. And they're not registered. They're registered. They don't vote. I've gone around the state holding meetings and rallies for 12 years since the SAFE Act in 2013, and it's all for naught. When we tried to take, I'll give you a quick one. We tried to take Cuomo out as governor back in 2014. Me and a buddy, Bill Noj from Rochester, went around the state. We were the leaders on the Second Amendment. And we were told it was a paper tiger by Matt Tatone, an assemblyman from New York City. He said, "You're a paper tiger." He goes, "Your gun owners don't vote." And we're like, "No, they're going to vote. They are after this. The SAFE Act was a step too far." And he said, "Dave, we've got the same thing. We got welfare people all over New York City, 2 million of them." This is back in 2013. And going into 2014, he said, "They don't vote." He goes, "We give them money. We take them to the polling place. They will walk in and not vote just to get the money." He
Wow.
goes, your gun owners are the same way." And after we got back, I said, "You're right, Matt, because you know the percentage of gun owners that voted in that big election against Cuomo? 14%.
Man. Okay.
The number one county up in the Adirondacks, which had the highest percentage of gun ownership, approximately 82% of every citizen in that county up in the Adirondacks owned a firearm, had the lowest voter turnout in the entire state, that county.
Wow. That's
So,
interesting.
so, so it's I mean, you keep pounding the pavement, but it's tough. A lot of people are just in New York. I don't know what it is. Apathy. Their vote doesn't count. I don't know, but trying to get them out to vote has been real tough.
Yeah, and a lot of conservatives nationwide actually, like a lot of people think like, oh, Trump won, we're good now. But the midterms, I keep stressing it, are so important because we have to keep winning. We have to keep winning House seats and Senate seats if we want to keep doing anything good. Because if we lose those, then it's a waste of the next 2 years, the last 2 years of the presidency anyway. So that extends to New York and everywhere else too. So, Dave, I just want to say thank you for what you do for the movement, for showing up and actually taking action and doing stuff for conservatives all around the world. Where can they find you and your radio show?
It's the Patriot radio station. You just Google and put in thepatriot.com, Buffalo, the Buffalo station, and or Alexa, or Siri, just say, give me the Patriot, and then just go for my show, the Dave DiPietro show, and you'll get it. And we need to. What you said about the midterms is is so correct. If we lose the midterms, there will be everything will come to a screeching halt. The impeachment process will begin again. They'll be calling hearings on every single Trump supporter. It'll be worse than it ever has been because the Democrats are freaking out. They don't have any common sense, and we've got to fight this fight back and get this country back on the right track. We're starting. Trump has done an amazing job, the best president I've ever seen, and I'm a Reagan fan. But we need to really we have to win the midterms.
Yeah. Well, David DiPietro, thank you so much for joining our show. Everyone follow him, follow his radio show, and we'll hopefully get you back on in the future because this was a great conversation.
God bless you guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Subscribe to the channel, guys, if you're new, and we'll see you next week.